The next generation of digital assistant will be digital twin. Sometimes, might be a very important meeting and joined by myself. For some other meetings, I might send my digital twin to join the meeting. My digital twin not only listening to the meeting over there, but also can help me make the decision as well. That's the world where we're going to live.
Welcome to the Logan Bartlett Show. On this episode, what you're going to hear is a conversation I have with co-founder and CEO of Zoom, Eric Yuan. Now, Eric and I talk about a number of different things related to Zoom, including the 45 different product releases that Zoom just announced this week, as well as what Eric sees as the future for Zoom in the AI world that we're moving into over the course of the next few years. We also talk about the features that Eric thinks any person that uses Zoom should be using. We also talk about how Eric prioritizes launching different features. And finally, I get a question answered that I've long since wondered about the insight that Eric had in the early days of Zoom that helped lead it into the business that it is today. A really fun conversation that I've long wanted to have with Eric that you'll hear now.
Thank you, Logan.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Great to connect. So I guess I want to start off. I saw the keynote today for Enterprise Connect was entirely about AI. For people that maybe missed it, can you give just a brief overview of some of the stuff you announced?
Awesome. Yeah. So our Chief Product Officer, Smita, she was at Enterprise Connect. We announced a bunch of new innovations, including around 45 features, primarily around AI Companion. A year ago, we launched the AI Companion 1.0, which is more like, based on the Gen AI capabilities. We just announced the Zoom, AI Companion 2.0 with agentic skills, with agentic framework and functionalities. A lot of innovations around our Zoom AI Companion 2.0.
And what is, I guess, the shift, the AI companion shifting from or evolving from a personal assistant to being truly agentic? Can you give an example of what that means?
Yeah, so a good example, take a meeting, for example, right? So normally, after the prior to meeting, I need to prepare for agenda, right? Write down the notes. After the meeting, I look at a summary, manually create a task. That's the way it worked before. With the Zoom AI Companion agentic capabilities, essentially take this meeting, for example, after this meeting is over, AI Companion will automatically create some tasks, assign it to you, assign it to me, and we'll track, even after the meeting is over, right? That's agent is doing something, on behalf of us. Otherwise, we need to manually to create the tasks based on the summary, based on the discussions.
I guess there's been a host of different AI tools that have popped up around meeting transcription and meeting summarization. And how do you think about the role that you play as an ecosystem hub for players like that versus building your own solutions in different areas that maybe relate to Zoom?
Yeah, good question. First of all, we are offering an open platform. Third-party vendors, they can build transcription tools by themselves, right? Given we have an API. At the same time, some of our customers, they would like Zoom to offer a seamless experience, everything from Zoom. That's the reason why we also offer the similar capabilities. Again, this is an open platform, up to customers to make a decision. If they want to use a Zoom built-in, all those, AI capabilities, like a real-time summary or meeting summary, creating the tasks after the meeting is over, we offer those, the features. Or customers, they can go to any third party. That's okay too, yeah.
My understanding is you all have been pretty purposeful about not charging for a number of the AI features that you guys have rolled out, which I think stands in contrast to a competitor of yours, Microsoft, who I think does charge for a lot of different stuff. How do you balance the democratization of AI and the thought process around embedding some of this stuff into your core platform with maybe the potential to charge for these things because they are so valuable?
Yeah, good question. So before we launched AI Companion, we already spent a lot of time on talking with the customers, how to leverage AI to add more value for the customers. And, AI Companion offers, a lot of AI capabilities. Those features or capabilities are core, to our meeting business. and we look at everything from a customer perspective. What's the total cost of ownership, right? So that's the reason why we truly optimize our backend, AI infrastructure, and try to do all we can to make sure, right, that cost-wise very manageable. With that, we can offer a greater service at no additional cost to our customers. That's the reason why AI companion usage, is growing very well, like a quarter over quarter, the 68% growth. And because of at no additional cost, because of the greater functionalities. At the same time, some of the enterprise customers, they would like to customize AI companion, right? And to leverage our AI studio, we can monetize on that front. But the core AI companion functionalities, no matter how we innovate, we still want to give customers at no additional cost.
As you think about these AI enhancements across Zoom, launching 45 of them, were they all 45 were announced today?
Yeah. Not every 45 features are just AI companion, primarily AI companion related, right? Well, for sure, we launched some other vertical services like Zoom Workplace for clinicians, for frontline workers, and so on and so forth. So,
is there 1 to 2 things as you started exploring AI and some of the use cases that were maybe counterintuitive to you, like when you set out sort of thinking about these things and the potential for Zoom to play in the world of AI, a conclusion that you reached that was maybe not totally obvious from the onset?
Yeah, one feature, we are a real-time collaboration communication company, right? Take a Zoom call, for example. Everything is one real-time, collaboration. And one feature like, hey, what if, let's say, Logan, we are sitting together in a local Starbucks coffee, not on the Zoom call. When we meet in person, how to leverage the AI. So we launched a feature called a voice recorder. Essentially, I just put my phone on the table, and the one-click launch a voice recorder, right? And we automatically recorded our conversation, generate transcription, and a meeting summary, and assign a task, and so on and so forth. That's pretty useful feature, right? And even in the beyond the Zoom call, that's one. Another one are really, it's my personal favorite feature, which is calendar management. Like you and I want to schedule a meeting next week. The way it works today, I need to call my EA, right? And talk with your assistant, right? To schedule a call. A lot of steps. What if we leverage the AI companion? Hey, AI companion, I want to schedule a meeting with Logan next week. It will automatically give us some options and make a decision for us. That's a very cool feature.
I assume a lot of these things are coming from the customers in some way, but how many of them do you think that more of these ideas sort of were surfaced in a bottoms-up manner from individuals that sort of saw this in the field, and maybe they're an IC who had some observation that this is a way that it could work? Or were a lot of these like top down from you or the leadership team and sort of setting the vision about where you ultimately want to go in collaboration with some of your big customers?
So great question. We are 7,500 full-time employee company. Top-down push does not work. I do not have enough bandwidth to do that. Almost all the innovations are coming from bottom-up. So meaning, our innovation model at Zoom is always sit down with the customers, listen to their, feedback or pinpoint very carefully, and come up with a solution. And then talking to customers, does this solution work for you or not? Almost all the innovations coming from that kind of bottom-up approach.
I know you guys are very deliberate about listening to your customers and trying to hear what they're saying, or maybe finding novel ways of addressing the pain points that they have. Are there any lessons you've learned about conducting these customer interviews in trying to hear maybe not necessarily what the pain point it is that they have, but what the problem that you can uniquely solve for them is? Are there any techniques or styles that you've come up with in sort of conducting these case studies or these interviews?
Yeah, wonderful question. So yeah, for sure, we have a formula here. Otherwise, this is a great question. Otherwise, given our customers coming from, online customers, SMB customers, all the way to the Fortune 100 companies, right? So every day we received so many feedback of feature requests, right? If you do not have formula, sometimes it's really hard, almost impossible to prioritize those features. So our formula here is more like, hey, when we talk to customers, we start from the problem statement. Human nature and customers will say, hey, you should do this. You should add that feature, right? You should build these functionalities, more like give you a solution. And we told our engineers, product managers, solution engineers, when we talk with the customers, always ask, what's the problem? And make sure we're on the same page about a problem statement or pain point. And then we work together with customers, try to understand what had happened, what's the root cause. And then, when we understand the problem, root cause, we work together to come up with a solution. And then validate it with the customers. And then we are trying to build the product. Otherwise, if you do not understand the problem and root cause, quite often customers say, you do this way. Yes, we are going to ask you this way. Another customer told us, hey, you should do that way. It's really hard to manage. That's why here we follow the problem, root cause, and the solution in a framework.
How do you think about the areas that you have a right to solve those problems versus things that maybe are outside of your adjacency? Like the calendaring example you gave, it's a problem we all deal with in a meaningful way. And Zoom is the start of a lot of or at least one of the first things I do in the calendaring process. And so I could say it totally makes sense for you guys to go down that path. I could also say, there's a lot of things that are already integrated into the calendar or the email stack or whatever it is. And maybe that's an adjacency that doesn't make as much sense for Zoom to solve. And so how do you think about like where your scope exists and what is inside the boundary versus outside the boundary when you hear pain points from customers?
Yeah, again, we take a calendar for example. We look at everything from customer perspective. Customer told us, hey, they are using Google Calendar. Yeah, we integrated Google Calendar very well, right? We built a calendar client, right? And we can talk with the Google backend, or we built a calendar client can talk with Outlook as well, right? And at the same time, and we also, some customers say, hey, what if you offer the calendar's native service? Not only client, but also server as well. We also offer the native client service. And some customers say, I want to stay with the Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. We also have, plug-in and to integrate it, with other third-party, systems as well. Again, we know every customer is different. We try to make sure, understand the customer pain point and come up with a solution. If customers say, I do not want to change anything, I want to stay with the Google Calendar, it's okay. We have a plug-in, with that, right? And that's the reason why our solution is very open and try to address, different customers, requirements. It's really, hard for us just to build one solution. I do this way can satisfy every customer's requirements. That's not work. That's why, quite often, sometimes we need to show, this is our core. This one we can leverage a third party. Again, we want to make sure either we build up ourselves or we partner with a third party. We always try to offer a solution to our customer.
As you guys made this shift to being not just a video conferencing platform or kind of a core application of which video conferencing was one of the elements, to more of a AI first business, is there anything you did specifically in the early days of that shift that if someone else is going through something similarly or trying to think about how to internalize the opportunity of AI, is there anything that you feel like you guys did uniquely well, or maybe mistakes you made that you would impart to a founder thinking about this?
We beyond a video conferencing company, right? So, a few years ago, we already, talk about how to transform our business from being a video conferencing app, to be a AI first, work platform. So essentially, we look at it, how customers every day they work, right? Open up the email, the calendars, and a chat message, whiteboard, make a phone call, schedule a meeting, and collaborate on a document. A lot of the tools, right? And the customer needed to back and forth go to the different tools, right, to get the work done. We think about how to leverage AI to give a customer, Zoom Workplace, the entire collaboration suite. Where like this morning, I open up Zoom Workplace, I can live within the Zoom Workplace, can get all of my work done. I check my email, I send you a chat message, right? I schedule the call, right? I do not leave a Zoom Workplace. And also at the same time, leverage AI. Used to be I need to manually create a document. Now I can tell AI company, please create a summary based on my last conversation with the partner to prepare me well for the next meeting. My AI company more like my assistant, right? We'll try to leverage AI to look at each service we are building, how to improve that experience. Essentially, down the road, more like AI, will proactively help me get most of the work done. I just assist AI company to do that.
I know we have a lot of people that live in Zoom on a daily basis, and so I'm curious if there's something that you've been using from an internal dog fooding standpoint. And maybe that was a good example, but anything that you would say, hey, if you're not using this within Zoom's platform, you're just really getting a suboptimal experience. You would encourage anyone listening to adopt this tomorrow?
I think a lot of things, right? And you take a meeting, for example, right? And you turn on AI companion. Like if I'm late to the meeting, I just, turn on AI companion, catch me up, right? It's a lot of features are already available there, right? Live translation as well. A lot of very cool features already built in, right? I just want the customer explore all those cool features. At the same time, a lot of new services. Again, take a Zoom Docs, for example, right? I think it's very powerful tools. It's not like a Google Docs, not like the Max of a Word, right? I can create a knowledge-based wiki and and create a table within a Zoom Docs and track what's going on after the meeting is over. We automatically create a Zoom Doc, right, to track the meeting summaries and also the task and so on and so forth. Another feature I really like, which is called Zoom Clips. And very soon we are going to have a feature that's also we announced at Enterprise Connect, where I created so many videos, right? I personally created videos. It's really, I would say the costly. How to leverage AI. I just created my avatar, and 2 minutes avatar. I give it to my our marketing team, and then down the road they just use a script, automatically generate a video. For our next earning call, I'm going to do that. Right? With that, I do not need to pre-record anything. I just then the marketing team, send the earning call script, will automatically create a video. So a lot of feature like that is very cool, and we're way beyond, video conference platform. And unfortunately, take some time. Many of the customers, they did not realize. Another example, we have a built-in chat functionality. We call it Zoom Team Chat. Something like a Slack or Teams. We had that for many, many years. A lot of bigger customers also deploy that. It's great built-in service. And we created here I live on the Zoom Team Chat, right? I send it all the chat message with my team, with all hands. After all hands meeting, and we also have every meeting after the meeting is over, we create a persistent chat group. I can continue engaging with our employees. There's another powerful tools. A lot of our customers, they are not aware of that.
Customer education is obviously as your surface area increases, it obviously becomes more and more of a challenge for the salespeople, for the product team, for product marketing, whoever it is. Have you found that doing one big release or narrowing the number of times at which you're releasing and announcing features has led to better customer education, or do you guys still ship when the product's ready and work on catching up and communicating later on to the customers as needed?
Yes, great question. So given the size of a company, given the so many customers, and the speed of innovation is still extremely important. Which is that's the reason why every time I have so many the new features, because again we are a workplace a platform, and also we have business services like a contact center. A lot of new services and new features. The key is really not about those of the innovation. The key is how to easily, the help customer discover those features, and make sure, at the right context, right? Like take the Zoom Docs, for example. Customers, they are not aware of this feature. What if we think about a use case where after the meeting is over, we automatically created a Zoom doc where you have a meeting summary. With that, we can expose, those new service and new features. So we got to think about it from a customer's perspective, how to, the embrace those new features rather than we leverage marketing. That may not work given the so complicated, the services we build now, because we have so many new things, right? So that's kind of for the effort we're working on. And to, take a meeting, for example, right? After the meeting is over, and we should tell you where to find, those the meeting summary template. Rather than before the meeting, we should tell you, oh, you should use a meeting summary template, how to customize, so on and so forth, right? So that's kind of, our strategy.
As you zoom out and sort of look forward, what do you think the future of meetings looks like? Maybe in, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever time horizon furthest out you feel comfortable projecting. Are there any things that you've internalized that maybe wouldn't be obvious to just, the average person going about their day using Zoom?
I think the future, just look at the meeting experience. I am very excited about the potential and innovations. Like a few years later, right? So, how to make sure every meeting experience very immersive. More like you and I, sitting together, right? And local Starbucks coffee, right? And a very immersive 3D, experience. And also, and if I shake your hands, if you can feel my hand shaking, that's even better. Right? That's truly immersive. That's one thing. Another thing is given the AI evolution, right? We are building the digital assistant. But the next generation of digital assistant will be digital twin. Sometimes, might be a very important meeting and join, by myself. For some other meetings, I might send my digital twin to join the meeting. My digital twin not only listening to the meeting over there, but also can help me make the decision as well, right? That's the world where we're going to live, right? You have AI, you have AR, and together we will make the meeting experience very immersive, very intelligent.
And so at a literal level, so that people understand it, I think unpacking the concept of a digital twin would be helpful. And so can you just go through at a very tactical, like what you mean by that? Is it going to be avatar based? Is it the decisioning side? What is it trained on? Can you just give like a little bit more granular insight into it?
Sure. I think, more like a two-step approach. The step one is more like a digital assistant, right? Based on my digital avatar, and also all the the information I can access, my digital assistant can access as well. Essentially, I have a personalized LLM, and also my email, chat message, whiteboard, meeting, transcription, any information I can access. The data also will be fed into my personalized, LLM. It would be part of my digital assistant. That's more like step one. The step two, a lot of knowledge here. How to make sure, let's say I download all my knowledge from my brain, right? Somehow to figure out a way to train my digital assistant. Then my digital assistant would be evolved into a digital twin, right? I think that step two, I do not think it's ready yet. We might need some neuroscience, breakthrough. I think that's kind of two-step approach.
And how do you think about resourcing against something like that might feel far off to the average person and the digital twin? Like, how do you think about the allocation of resources or R&D development to something like that versus the standard products that you're selling today?
Again, most of resources, are working so hard on addressing, customers, today's, the needs, right? And maybe next is, a few months, few quarters. For sure, we have some engineers, work on for the future tasks, right? Maybe, may not be, ready for 1 year, 2 years. You can call that a lab, right? So, more like a cutting edge technology, right? And we targeted for the future. So more like, and most of our engineers for sure, and they build the foundational technology, add more features, AI companion, so on and so forth. We also need to think about the future as well. I think probably 90%, are working on today's the features and the services, 10% reserved for the future research work.
You guys obviously have access to a bunch of sensitive information, and trust is such an important point of what it is that you guys do from a security standpoint, data, all of that. There does seem to be this tension that exists with a lot of the AI products today, of a desire for the copious amounts of data that people can access, with the need to ensure user trust and confidence with either existing or potential customers. I guess, can you just speak to this and how you guys think about where the bright lines are that exist between the data that you want to train on and enable versus the data that you keep totally separate and is totally sovereign to the individual customer?
Yes, great questions. First of all, Zoom is a very, very secure, the platform. We take security very, very seriously. That's the reason why today look at most of the security companies worldwide, they all use Zoom because it's very secure. Take AI or data privacy, for example. We are the first vendor who made it a commitment. We do not want to use any of our customers' content to train our AI model. Period. Right. So we made that a commitment. So we build our own large language model, but and we use the public data, or maybe partner with third party. We never want to use our customer data. That's kind of very, very clear. And if customer they want to think on this AI company, they want to get the meeting transcription. We also very, very flexible. The policy, like a customer say, I do not want to have any data after the meeting is over. I just needed the meeting summary. We have a zero, the data retention policy, right? Automatically, deleted all the transcriptions, so on and so forth. And some customers say, I want to make sure this meeting is extremely secure. I do not have any company. It's okay. We supported the end-to-end encryption, which is the first vendor, who claimed the post-quantum end-to-end encryption. We also support that as well. Again, the data privacy is extremely important. And we look at everything from customer perspective. We do not want to make a decision for customer. Like, hey, for this meeting transcription, we should keep it for 3 months, 6 months. No, we give a customer choice. Let a customer make a decision by themselves.
We touched on a little bit earlier about your obsession with the customer. I'm curious, was there an example in Zoom's history, maybe of a product that became important, where customer feedback maybe directly altered a direction that you were headed from a product roadmap standpoint in an unexpected way?
Yeah, it's happening every day. I give one example, like last night at a dinner with a customer. And again, our AI, companion is based on a federated AI approach, meaning we have our own large language model with Llama or OpenAI and Anthropic, and this is a federated AI approach. And some customers, especially for financial institutions, they say they want to just use the Zoom AI companion, our own model. We give them a choice. Or they can use all the model together as a hybrid. Some customers mention, I just want to use Zoom AI companion, maybe with Anthropic. I just use those two. Do you support that? Today, we do not support that. Either Zoom own large language model or federated approach. When we get those feedback, customers say, they want to pick up Zoom own large language model is one of the cloud-based large language model. At this moment, do not support that. But based on feedback, we are going to support it very, very soon. Those kind of feedback we receive every day. That's the reason why, our innovation speed, truly help us stand out compared to any other competitors. Based on the customer feedback, we can quickly innovate. And very soon, we're going to give a customer flexibility. They can pick up whatever the large language model they want to use.
In terms of your stylistic approach to running the business, there's been this refrain around, I think founder mode was the term of Paul Graham, and I think he attributed a lot of the distillation coming from Brian Chesky. And for lack of a good synthesis of at least how I think about it, it's empowering the founders to sort of make centralized and maybe gut-based or forward-looking decisions that ripple through an organization, which I think stands in contrast to a lot of executive empowerment and probably elements of delegation as well. I'm curious, do you gravitate to being more hands-on and in the weeds of the individual functional areas, or do you tend to stylistically approach it more from a delegation standpoint?
Yeah, I like that conversation between Paul and the brand. Really, love that. I think most of founders, I think probably, yeah, in my view, is extremely hands-on. And I know from the day when I started, 2011 until today, still very, very hands-on, and sometimes you need to delegate. Quite often, it's hard to delegate, right? You really, as a founder, right, let's say, when customer asks us a problem, I really look at it from customer perspective. I could have delegated to, my direct report, and then delegate it to another, manager, and then talk to engineers. I cannot wait. I immediately a Zoom call with one of the engineers. I say, trying to understand what's the problem. When can we come up with a solution? Can we deploy this weekend? This is happening every week, right? Like a founder, truly care about everything. Also the speed is very important. That's the reason why sometimes you have to be extremely hands-on to talk with the individual contributors, get a thing done as quickly as possible. Because, every day customer might be suffering, from those issues. That's the reason why, you have to be extremely hands-on, sometimes a little bit of macro management. But again, the goal is to make sure they deliver happiness to our customers. As long as I have that goal, I really do not care about a delegation or not a delegation. I just want to get the work done. That's it.
You all have gone through different journeys over the course of the last couple of years. I guess every business has, but you guys uniquely certainly were enabling infrastructure for a lot of us just to survive with friends and family, and then also do our jobs over the course of the pandemic. I shudder to think of what the economy maybe looked like absent Zoom for all the stuff that you guys were able to enable. And then there was sort of this zero interest rate phenomenon that we all went through. And then we've sort of had the hangover of all of that stuff that's happened since then. I'm curious, as the dynamics in the market have changed, how has your culture evolved? How have you thought about shifting the internal values or whatever are the case, or maybe not? Maybe you've kept them consistent all the way through. I'm curious, like in going through these different cycles, how you thought about what to iterate on versus what to keep consistent from a cultural standpoint.
Yeah, Logan, that's a wonderful question. Speak of a culture, that's one of the things that keep him up, in the night. The reason why, prior to pandemic crisis, we were a relatively small company, 2,500 employee company. And I know almost all of them, right? So, and we had a great culture, and every day we're working hard to truly deliver happiness to our customers. Look at everything from a customer perspective. Whenever we got any escalation, everyone wants to say, hey, can we deliver today? Can we deliver this week? We have that mentality. But during COVID, crisis, right? Given the service demand, we had to recruit so many new employees. Essentially, within an 18 months window, we hired around 6,000 employees. On the one hand, we had no choice but to hire many employees. On the other hand, I made a mistake. We hired new employees too quickly. I can tell you the culture was broken a few years ago. We are almost, fixed the company culture problem, right? The reason why is, sometimes we do not look at everything from customer perspective, always look at it from internal perspective. Oh, we should add this process. Oh, we should do this, do that. We forgot everything we do here. We got to make sure customer feel happy. And we lost that. And nowadays, we are trying to fix that problem. Either, recently we just published our culture playbook. The goal is to make sure everyone really understand why we're working so hard here. What's the goal? Our company value just one word, which is care. Care about the community, customer, company, teammates, as well as ourselves. If we do not care about the customers, no matter what we do, we think we have innovation, customers, they do not care. What they care is what we can deliver our services and more value to our customers. When customers use our service, they feel very happy. Wow, it just works, right? That's the reason why, we are working so hard. And again, we are almost there, and to fix the culture, bring our, previous great culture back. We are not there yet. Hopefully by the end of this year, I told our team, it might take 3 years for us to bring the greater culture back. This is the third year.
I know one of the values or things that you guys think about is the continuous improvement element. And I think that's one of the things that you try to instill into the culture. Are there ways that you actionabilize that at a personal level, things that you do that you think enable you to continuously optimize and be a better CEO, leader, manager, whatever the case may be?
Yeah. So here, again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a culture playbook, which is the 9 principles. One of them is how to develop ourselves to become a better version of ourselves, myself included. One of those the culture principle is a daily self-reflection. I want to become a better CEO every day. I want all of my the managers, engineers, they also become better engineers, better managers as well. What's the formula right here? No matter how busy we are, and we always carve out like 15 or 20 minutes time every day. Very likely at the end of the day, think about, hey, if I start over today, what I should do differently? Do I miss anything? Do I receive a escalation from a customer? Do I respond to this customer or not? Right. So it's more like a daily self-reflection. And this is one of our culture principles. The goal is make sure all Zoomies will become better. Mm-hmm. Then the company will become better. Right? If our employees, myself included, we do not become better version of ourselves, there's no way for Zoom to move to the next level.
You guys have moved back to more in-person, in-office culture and day-to-day of work. I'm curious, it seems like most of our companies have landed almost back to where they started the pandemic, that if they were remote, they're still remote. If they were in person, they've kind of moved back to in person, plus or minus. I guess one of the challenges that I see is there's still elements of this hybrid work that we haven't totally figured out. At least a lot of my companies haven't exactly figured out the best way of operating in a hybrid environment where some people are in person and other people are remote, and making everyone feel like they're on the same team, albeit maybe the meeting is a little different because there's some people in one room and some people on the Zoom screen. I'm curious, are there tactics you guys have taken or anything that you've done to enable hybrid work to work better or make everyone feel like they're on the same page in a meeting?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say every company, every business is different, and the way for them embrace hybrid work also different. It could be 5 days in office, 5 days remote, right? Either way works. In the case of Zoom, and we are more like twice a week, in office, 3 days, remote work. The reason why we embrace hybrid, like that, is because a lot of our customers, they embrace hybrid work. We build features and services for our customers. If we do not eat our own dog food, how can we build a better service for our customers who leverage our service to embrace hybrid work? I give you a few examples. Like in the case of hybrid work, quite often some customers, they told us, hey, they need their employees to reserve a desk, before you go to office. And that's the reason why we built a service, Zoom Rooms, the desk reservation feature, right? To help a customer reserve a desk, right? That's the kind of feature like that. Also, a lot of customers, hey, when they back to the office, and the conference room experience is different. They do not like the experience where, if you're not in the conference room, you're not a part of a conversation. Based on that, the feedback, we add a lot of features, and to improve our conference room experience, like intelligent director, multiple camera support, and make sure every participant sitting in the conference room, from a remote perspective side, they see a Zoom square, more like the when they all join a meeting remotely, right? A lot of features, because we support hybrid, because the customer support hybrid, because of the listening customers. That's the reason why we can, launch a lot of innovations, to support and the hybrid work.
There's a very famous story of your founding and working at Cisco and WebEx and all of that that I think has served as something of a template or an example of founders striking out from within a bigger enterprise when they have a unique insight or opportunity. I'm curious, like, if we go all the way back and look at the product insight that you had at that time, if you were to distill down like what the 1 to 2 things that you saw that were unobvious to the rest of the market, what were those things? And I guess how blaringly obvious were they to you? Was it a thesis, or were you pretty convinced that it was inevitable that we were going to move in this direction, and so you were pulling your hair out trying to convince people that this is where we were headed?
Yes, wonderful question. So I started 2011, right? The year before I started Zoom, which was 2010. At that time, I spent a lot of time on talking with the customers. Already realized the future of the conference will be the video centric. It's not the screen sharing centric. That's very clear. And unfortunately, the WebEx architecture is not about video, really about data collaboration. I realized there's no way you have a best video conference experience unless you build it from the ground up with a new architecture. Very, very clear. That's the one thing. The second thing really about the mobile experience. And also meaning, let's say you and I that joined like back then, like Cisco telepresence, from the conf room. But some participants, they should join via their phone. At that time, don't know support. So meaning the second problem, meaning it's kind of more like no matter which device you're using, either laptop, desktop, mobile phone, the conf room, you have to have a consistent, great video experience. That's the second thing I realized. You have to build it also from the ground up. Those two things I realized, and there's no way to tweak WebEx. You have to build a new solution. That's how I started Zoom. So,
did people disagree with either of those two insights, or did they just, or I guess, was it the first insight that people disagreed with, that it needed to be fundamentally re-architected, and that was sort of the resistance within the organization?
Well, I think good news, all the engineers agreed with me.
Yeah.
Everything else, they disagreed. So
what is the lesson? I don't want to disparage Cisco, but I'm curious, what is the lesson in that for other companies that maybe would be faced with a similar situation that maybe isn't identical but has some rhyming elements to it? Are there things that you've internalized about that you want to make sure you don't let ever occur within Zoom because it led to this outcome for Cisco?
Yeah, again, don't get me wrong, Cisco is a great company.
No, I know. Yeah. I want to use it more as an abstract example than Cisco. Yeah.
So my point of it is, this is a lesson I learned, and it may not work for others. I would say sometimes if you really listen to customers carefully, you do not ignore them, you are not going to miss a big opportunity. That's one. Or don't ignore the engineer's feedback. Meaning you also, as a especially founder or senior executive, no matter how big a company is, always keep a very close relationship with those individual contributors like engineers. Also very important. They know everything going on. If you do not stay close, so many layers may not work.
I've long attributed something to Zoom's early days, and I was at Battery Ventures, and we were investors in Blue Jeans, which for people that don't know was an early competitor of yours, and actually I think initially was out in front, particularly in the enterprise market. But one of the, maybe this goes to the re-architecture point, one of the things that I always thought you guys got uniquely right, and maybe this is just me making it up in hindsight, so I'm curious your perspective on this, was that video conferencing was as much about audio, or maybe even more about audio than it actually was video in the early days, because there's an element of tolerance that people can have if your video cuts out a little bit. But if audio cuts out, it ruins the meeting altogether. I'm curious, I've long attributed that to an insight that you guys had in the early days, but I don't actually know if it's true or not. Is that actually a true observation that you guys had, or if I just reverse engineered it?
Yeah, so yeah, Blue Jeans, the founder and the CEO, Chris, is a great friend. I think the insight from Blue Jeans right on. I completely agree. If voice does not work, nothing matters. You have to nail voice first. Again, that's very complicated. Voice OIP essentially, in my view, it's sort of conflicts with the TCP/IP. Does not work. You have to, figure out a way to make a voice OIP work. No matter what kind of bandwidth, no matter very long distance, there's a very, unstable internet. How to make the voice OIP work? Again, that's not that straightforward. That's the reason why even today, some of our competitors, the voice quality is still not very good. So that's another reason why, customers really like our service. It just works. So voice and video and extremely important when it comes to quality.
I feel like companies often have a window of time that they could start and have the success that they did. Do you think if Zoom were started 3 years earlier, would it have been too early to the market, or do you think it could have worked some period of time earlier?
Yeah, wonderful question. I also thought about that question as well. In my view, I think 2 or 3 years earlier, probably even better. But 5 years earlier, for sure, I'm already died, I think. So.
And what was that? Just like the architecture primitives of building in the cloud, decisions you would have made around that time, had it been 5 years earlier versus 2 or 3?
Because of 5 years earlier, at that time, let's say 2016, right? And if it started, even have normally 2 years, you have a solution ready. Let's say 2017 or 18, you have a solution ready. At that time, mobile phone with a camera, not that, popular, right? A lot of laptops do not have video camera yet, right? When you after have a solution, you did not see a demand. You might have to, ask a question. Do I build the right solution? Why did not see the demand? Actually, sometimes you're ahead of a market. It's very, very, risky if you're ahead of a market. The reason why human nature, we do not have patience, right? Or we build a solution, if we do not see the market, the demand, we might pivot to do something else. Then you might miss the market window. That's why timing is very tricky. 2 or 3 years, I think might be okay. So
yeah. I was there's Emmett Shear, who is the CEO of Twitch, founder of Twitch, said one time to me that the job, if you start too early, your job is to survive. And if you start too late, you might not have the opportunity. And so better to be early than late. And you just need to make sure that you survive long enough to catch the wave. I've always thought that's an interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah, right on. I totally agree. So
I'm curious, like in the early days when you rejected a number of times, if I have this right, from a visa in trying to come over, I guess, one, do I have that right? And two, if so, was there anything that you learned from that experience that you think has enabled you to be the founder that you are today? Or was that just an unfortunate circumstance that, you don't want people to have to go through?
I think looking back, seriously, that's a great practice. So meaning, I think the God already originated everything, right? When I was young, already practiced never give up. If I give up, that's kind of, I never had a chance to build a company like Zoom. And I tried it multiple times. At that time, I told myself, I will try, as hard as I can. Maybe a few years. As long as they told me I can, I just keep trying, keep trying. One thing I learned, and the perseverance extremely important when you start a business, right? If you have one product that don't work, try again. If one business that don't work, try again. Keep trying, keep trying. Someday, you might achieve your, something what you want, right? And dream might come true. Again, don't give up too early. That's what I learned.
How did you maintain that confidence to keep plowing ahead, either with Zoom or with your visa process? Because I would say there's a thin line between crazy, stubborn people who, never get to where they're going versus the people that build the iconic companies. And maybe it's just the success that's the determinant of which side you fall on that. But I'm curious, just from a psychological standpoint, the fortitude to keep going. Was there anything that you feel like uniquely enabled you to do that?
It's a great question. So in my view, sometimes you are stopping on the right thing, you're lucky.
Yes.
But stopping on the wrong thing, oh my God, that's bad luck. So, but how to make sure, you are working on the right things? I think, in my view, in multiple things, always look at everything from customer perspective. Put yourself into customer shoes. The second thing is you have to have, a mentor, or maybe, someone, who are smarter, you can count on, always, get their insights. That's the second thing. The third thing, you also need to, talk to yourself every day, like a Zoom daily self-reflection. I always ask the question, am I working on the right thing? Am I, becoming a little bit more stubborn? Should I pivot or not? Right? It's kind of every day you got to talk with yourself, talk with the customers, talk with those people who are smarter than you. Then you try to make sure you're working on the right things. Try to make sure sometimes don't be too stubborn. Right? So it's kind of, it's a little bit tricky. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious, the early days, were there things that were not scalable that you guys did in the early days that enabled the success that you ultimately had, kind of brute forcing some things initially?
Yeah, there's so many, examples. One example is early on, the type of market pressure, we built voice OIP, and for the PhD in service, which is a phone call, right? We did not build it by ourselves. We think, customer might be switching to the voice OIP. They do not use a phone, right, to join a call anymore. We were wrong because we partnered with a third party and we did not build it by ourselves. And when after the launch of the service, the quality is so bad. Customers, they complain. We realized, don't look at it from our internal perspective. Look at it from a customer perspective. I think we quickly, fix that problem, build our own service and fix that problem. The lesson learned, right? So quite often, when you think and you do not need a PhD in service, you do not look at it from a customer perspective. We did not validate it with many customers, and we made a mistake.
In terms of hiring, you've built out a leadership team. I know there's been different evolutions over the years as you've grown. Are there things that you specifically look for in any person that joins the company, or specific things that you uniquely try to validate in an interview process that someone has that will allow them to succeed within Zoom's culture?
Yeah, so a little bit. We were, sort of took a little bit of different approach early on. The way for us to build each functional team, quite often you might hire a leader first. Like, let's take a marketing team, for example. You hire a CMO first, and then delegate a CMO, build a marketing team, and so on and so forth, right? We took a different approach. We more like we want to build a team first with quite a few individual contributors, and afterwards we hire a leader, right, to make it that department more scalable. We took a bottom-up approach. The reason why is, what if you hire wrong leader, right? Wrong leader hired the wrong team. If that don't work, the entire team, might be gone, right? So that's why we take a bottom-up approach. That's one thing. The second thing, when we try to hire the employees, we always look at the self-learning and the self-motivation, because startup, tons of work. even if you do not sleep, you still cannot get work done, right? How to make sure every employee, they motivate themselves. They can learn everything by themselves. That's extremely important. When it comes to hiring senior leaders, we like those leaders who has a greater potential. They can grow themselves along with the company growth. That's the reason why we did not hire any like VP level leaders from any other company. So it's a medium level, managers or director level, right? They join Zoom, very energetic, right? They learn a lot of things along with the Zoom growth. That works so well. But now we have to change. Given the size of company, those are the seasoned leaders, for sure will help us more. That formula will not work anymore. So meaning the different, time of the company growth, you have to look at, that formula still working out, right? That's the reason why, look at we just hired a CFO for Microsoft, the CTO also for Microsoft. They're all great leaders, already in the corporate VP level, from other companies.
Is the insight on the VP side in those scaling days and hiring people that maybe haven't done it before, or trying to bring in people that were higher on potential than experience? What was the insight or the desire to gravitate towards that? Was it so that they weren't calcified in their ways and that they could absorb Zoom's culture without being too stuck in how they historically did, or was it something else?
The culture fit for sure always number one. Assuming that all the leaders who hired, there's a culture fit, right? The second is really about experience. Sometimes they have great experience may not help you if you do not want to learn, because every company is different, right? They might leverage the experience they gain from working with others. They come to Zoom, just tell us, I do this, we do that way, even without understanding our problem. We do not like that. We would like those leaders who come to Zoom in very hands-on, really trying to understand the problem, and then based on their experience and come up with the solution. And that's the learning, a self-learning mentality, extremely important. I think even more important than their experience. If they learn quickly, they can gain tons of experience, right, at a startup. So that's why we prioritize self-learning and self-motivation.
I'm curious if you could go back in time and tell your 2011 self something that you now know 14 years into the journey. Is there one thing that stands out that you wish you could press that time machine and go back and impart upon yourself way back when?
It's a great question. That's too many things. I made a tons of mistakes, and I would like to tell the younger version of myself. And yeah, it's so many things. Maybe one thing I tell you, actually, we got a great support from VCs. We raised in total 145.5 million. And when we go public, the day we made this, we became a public company, the money we had in the bank, more than what we raised from VC. I think looking back, that's a huge mistake. We should be more aggressive and build a lot of new services, right? The reason why you get money from VC, you have to be smart how to use that, and build new services, new features, and new stuff. And I was too conservative and always try to achieve, cash flow positive. Looking back, that's a big mistake.
That's a great commercial for my business. I appreciate that. We need founders to continue to take our money. And some of these businesses are growing so fast these days. It's a good lesson. I guess in picking those areas, do you think that, like, in using that capital and being more aggressive in going into different areas, were there certain things that you ended up just doing later that you would have pulled forward? Or do you think it would have been a different set of problems that you would have gone after had you done it in 2015, 16, 17 versus 2020?
Yeah, because early on, I spent a lot of time talking to customers. I already know what they need. They want to have a full, UC solution, right? And the meeting is the first one, and the chat and the phone and a lot of things. They already told us. I knew that. At that time, when I started a company already, I was, age 41. The age might play a role. I was too conservative. I want to build a step by step. Looking back is absolutely wrong. The reason why when customers say, I badly need a phone service, we do not have that. It took us another one and almost 2 years. 3 years ago, we launched the contact center. Right? Should have been launched maybe 5 years ago, right? Meaning, if you understand the customers, the requirements, why not build it now? Why you take a step-by-step approach? That's the reason why, today we look at a lot of the new services are working so hard in the pipeline. We should have started a few years ago, right? Given we have a capital, but I just made a mistake. You just made a wrong decision. So,
are there things that you spend more time on now from as a founder CEO that you wished you had focused in on earlier in the journey? I often find sometimes people don't lean into enterprise sales, or they, maybe delegate in some ways and end up stepping into other functional areas. Are there things in your day-to-day that you spend more time on now that you wish you had done a few months or years earlier?
Yeah, I think one thing is really it used to be, we only look at it like, we only build like a 1-year plan, at the most 1.5 years. We do not think of what's the Zoom look like in 5 years, 10 years. Prior to becoming a public company, if we have that, more like a long-term planning or 5 years planning, today is Zoom much better company. That's the reason why I learned hard way, right? That's why I always think about, hey, in 3 years, 5 years, what do we want to achieve? And then, based on what we have today, we got to just start working on those kind of stuff. More like a long-term planning is becoming more and more important, given the size, given a public company. And we did not do well before, right? So always, short-term focus. And that's something, I think I learned.
You've been fortunate enough to pick investors in the private markets as well as the public markets. Anything that you've learned about picking who to work with that you would impart upon a CEO or someone that's thinking about how to pick who are going to be the partners on the cap table?
Yeah. So early on, I had a philosophy. Today is still very, very, I think valid. To me, is the two things. First of all, I want to pick someone I can work together with them, forever. More like a, startup, is a long journey, right? Could be 10 years or maybe 20 years. You pick up a partners, you can become your great friend. You can work together, even not for business, but something else, forever, right? It's kind of a, lifetime friend, right? That's really important. That's the number one thing. Number two thing, I really like is in particular for investors. They not only bet on our business, they also want to bet on me, trust me. Because, as a founder, right, sometimes you have to pivot quickly. If they really invest in your business, what if your business does not do well? You want to pivot. They may not want to support you anymore. But this is why, I like those, investors or partners who, truly trust me, bet on me, in addition to bet on our business. That's just, second thing. I think as long as I find anyone, I can be a lifetime, friend and also bet on me, I think, why not, to become partner. So
as we wrap here, are there any things that you think about in our industry that you project forward in the coming decade, or just a belief that you have in a unique way about anything in the industry that you think is going to radically change over the course of the next decade, particularly as people think about how AI is going to permeate our day-to-days?
In my view, AI is already inflection point, as we all know, right? And nobody knows what's the future look like in 10 years. I think that this is the AI. It's just this crazy innovation pace on AI front. Today there's so many engineers work on the product. I guess for sure we all know that. So many AI engineers, will deliver much more than human engineers delivered over the past, 200 years. So I do not know which industry and will be extremely different, right? And truly stand out compared to other peer industries. But I would say healthcare could be something extremely interesting, right? The new drug discovery process, the way to take care of our body, right? And the way and to leverage AI to make their lives better. And I think this could be revolutionary. And that's kind of, my 2 cents. So.
Well, Eric, thanks for doing this. It was fun to have you on and talking through all this stuff, and look forward to hopefully doing it again at some point in the future.